Now, those of you who know the point of this channel and know anything about my particular background, reparations is not my thing. But I did a video about reparations, and it apparently resonated with a lot of people. And I was really surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I was surprised at how many people don't even know what reparations is. Okay. Reparations is not an individual thing. Reparations is a governmental issue. It's a historical governmental issue, and it's about an investment not being addressed. It's about wealth being extracted and not returned by a government, not citizens. Reparations is not looking up who are descendants of slave owners and privately going after their current assets. And I don't think that that debate is even being made in good faith, but there are some people who really want to believe that. So I have one person who keeps, it's so funny that people don't want to have any accountabilities to what our country has done, to the extent to which that they will look for any example to absolve themselves. One particular person that's been responding keeps coming with one example of one person, black person, that had a lot of slaves in South Carolina. And that is akin to finding this exception to the majorative rule is like me saying white men are not racist because John Brown lived. Well, no, it's okay. Well, Native Americans had slaves. Technically, yes, but that was an extreme minority case. And that was also under the guise and direction of the dominant culture. The Africans had been living on the North American continent with Native Americans for hundreds of years we know of, and possibly thousands of years. That form of slavery had not existed. African kings had slavery. Slavery has existed through time. From what we know, every group has had some form of slavery. What is different or unique about the United States or North America is chattel slavery. Chattel slavery has never existed in human history before or after the Atlantic slave trade. North American slavery, the 13 colonies that ultimately became the United States, has what is considered historically the most inhumane and brutal form of slavery ever. In no form of slavery has a human been commodified. This is where we're talking about reparations. Okay, this is why reparations is specific to this place and specific to this time period, because something specific happened here that did not exist somewhere else. That's like saying, well, they play basketball in Kenya, but that has nothing to do with the NBA. It may be a version of the same game, but the NBA and what they're playing in other countries, especially countries that are not known for basketball, it's apples and bowling balls. They're playing basketball at the Y. And you go, well, that's the same thing as the NBA. No. There was a mindset, a culture, a government endorsed an economic system built around slavery. Generally, slavery was a consequence of something else. It was not hereditary. And no one ever lost their value as a human. They were slaves, but it was understood that they were people. That mindset did not exist before or after. So that looking for something else to absolve myself, it says two things. Number one, I'm looking for something as opposed to addressing the situation at hand. And number two, I would rather talk about something else than talk about our issue here. Whatever happened with Attila the Hun has nothing to do with American history and American culture. It just doesn't. And I am an American historian, so that's not my wheelhouse. I'm talking about what happened here and how we got to where we are today. I've had people say, well, if you've lost nothing, then there's nothing to be repaired from. Well, there are a few arguments. When those people lost something, the justice wasn't done. And there are people walking around today who has lost something and nothing's being done. Because reparations is not a slavery issue. It's an economic issue. And the 100 years after slavery, when we had convict leasing, black codes, Jim Crow, segregation, Plessy versus Ferguson, civil rights resistance, war on drugs, mass incarceration. Those people are walking around today because all of that was about money. Redlining, retention of mortgages, loan denial. All of these things were done to keep wealth in certain areas and deny wealth in other areas. So if we take slavery and leave that alone, the people who lived under Plessy versus Ferguson are still alive. People who lived under Jim Crow are still alive. The people affected by the war on drugs, where 4 presidents have apologized and several senators and Congress people have apologized, they're still walking around. And if you think the war on drugs was not an economic issue, look at the documentary on 13th. Read a documentary called 13th on Netflix. It's online. You can go to YouTube and look at it. Read Slavery by Another Name by Douglas Blackman or The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. That stuff wasn't personal. That was about money. American law is a system to maintain the haves and have-nots. That's what American law is. So anybody who says there's no clandestine plan to hurt black people, they're just not trained in American law. And even the laws that have been overridden, for the time that they were in effect, Naturalization Act of 1790. From 1790 until Reconstruction, it particularly said you had to be white to be a citizen. Now, for that time period, which is over a century and a half, there's wealth being accumulated by way of being a citizen. That's like you go into a grocery store. These people have had from 1790 to Reconstruction to shop in the store. And then I have from Reconstruction forward where everything's picked through. These people are getting land. These people are getting benefits. They're getting education. They're getting training. And they're passing that to their kids. And what is hard for me is really being able to ascertain who really doesn't know better or who just has no sensitivity and is looking for any excuse to say, you don't have. And the abuse of this word victim. This is the first time I put the word in a video. But I think you have to have more information before you call someone a victim. If I'm stating a fact, I don't see where victim falls into a particular context. My personal financial or educational or social placement has nothing to do with the plight or facts that we're discussing. People act as though if the government pays restitution to Mexican people, Native American people, and black people, that all American citizens don't pay. I pay. I would have to pay restitution to Native Americans. I would have to pay restitution to Mexican Americans. I would have to pay restitution to Black Americans. And every other tax-paying minority would have to. But it's funny. They don't care that the United States is sending billions, more money than it would take to stop homelessness or hunger in America, to just one war overseas. They didn't vote on that. They're not in the streets arguing about that. They're not calling the Palestinians and the Israelis victims. Oh, well, they sent the money. They sent the money. Okay, no problem. Where's the protest about? Hey, don't send my money there. I didn't do anything over there. I'm not responsible. My grandfather didn't do anything between Palestine and Israel. Why should I have to pay? That's not a conversation that I'm seeing on CNN, Fox, ABC News. I'm not seeing that on podcasts. But the same people who claim that they're patriots don't want to see other Americans in any type of position where they feel they're getting a benefit. There was no protest over the Homestead Acts when white people were getting millions of acres of land. That's socialism. When they were going to colleges for free, because colleges didn't cost until the 20th century. They're going to state colleges learning how to enter industry. And then by the time black folks got to go, then it started costing, and now it's no point in even going as far as the costs are, as far as I'm concerned. So reparations really brings out the character of people. And I'm just saying, I want you to comment, but I just want you to think about, who am I as to why I am visceral? Yourself, you say, okay, why do I have a visceral response to something being made right? Why do I not want to see someone else benefit? Why does that make me so upset? Just think about it.